Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Desi Outdoor Podcast. My name is Raj and today we are going to interview Rammohan Paranjape. Rammohan is a pro surfer and he also happens to be a surf photographer. Now that's a very interesting profession in our country. He has been doing some amazing work in the surfing scene, and people who know about him already know the kind of amazing photos he clicks and all the good work that he's done. For people who don't know, you can go to Instagram, follow his account, Who is Ram, or you can just go and check out his website. Since he's spent so much time close to the oceans, he's also a ocean conservationist. So he's very passionate about this cause, and in this episode we spoke about a lot of stuff where he talks about how he got into surfing, how someone could get into surfing as a career, and a little bit about ocean conservation as well. Now, this episode is a little bit longer than our usual interview episodes because the kind of work Ram has done, it would be just unfair to, just keep it a short episode for 20 minutes. But I am positive that you will love what Ram has to say. So I hope you like this episode, and if you like us, you can follow us on Instagram at Desi Outdoor Podcast to stay updated with all the new episodes. Okay, we have started recording. Okay, it's going to be a super chill and casual conversation. So,
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm
yeah,
looking forward to this one actually because I just want the whole thing to be very completely natural in a natural flow
yeah, yeah. So,
and nothing. I'm not prepared in any way.
it's fine. You don't have to prepare for anything.
Yeah,
I wanted to keep it casual because otherwise it gets boring also for the listeners also, no? And plus it will
absolutely.
be fun for you. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the show, Ram Mohan.
Thank you, Raj.
Okay, first of all, tell
Pleasure.
me, what do I call you? Do I call you Ram? Do I call you Mohan?
Oh, Ram is perfect. Yeah, it's what
Okay.
everyone calls me. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of which, I find your username very intriguing, man. Like, do you have a story to it? Who is Ram is your username everywhere and also your website.
Yes. Yeah, so I've had, like kind of like when I opened an Instagram account, about 6, 7 years ago, the idea was, I think even now, as we speak now, I think I'm on a journey myself. I'm on a
Uh-huh.
journey where I'm kind of like discovering about, you know, about so many things in life, and I'm kind of like discovering myself. That's through the process, through so many different things which I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of like it's like a question to myself, like who is Ram? So that's something which I ask myself from time to time. Especially where am I going? What am I doing? What's the purpose of you know certain things I'm doing or not? So these are some a lot of questions which I ask myself, and kind of like I came up with that username, who is Ram.
Okay. So you are generally the
Yeah.
curious type of person in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's kind of like I'm curious about myself. I'm curious about my surroundings. About people, about who I interact with, what I do. Everything is kind of like I go really deep into everything. So that's yeah, you could say that all sums up into my
Username.
username, and then later on my website and everything else and all that. Yeah.
That is an insane amount of thought for a username and a website, but I really like it though.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everywhere it's the same, the same username or same name I'm using. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So, what are you up to these days? Like, how are you keeping yourself busy?
I'm just following a certain routine. I do some, exercise, some meditation, certain things. I obviously we're all cooking now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of that. I'm spending a lot of time doing a bit of gardening and stuff. Learning about some other things like that. I'm actually also doing an online course with on about ocean and ocean conservation,
Oh,
and it's a beautiful 3 month online course with kind of thing. So this is a great time to kind of like spend some time into learning some new things and all that.
absolutely.
And I'm also kind of like working on the surfing side of things, restructuring, like understanding a lot of things about some of the smaller businesses which I'm involved with, like
Mm-hmm.
restructuring that, understanding what's gonna be coming, what's gonna happen or after all this, through
Yeah, yeah.
this
Post-COVID.
this one post COVID. So I'm trying to keeping myself busy through these times. But the question is, how long this is gonna go. So that's gonna what's the
Right now,
breaking point?
nobody knows, I guess.
Yeah, that nobody knows. Yeah. So until then, keep doing the best I can.
Nice. So, where were you born, Ram?
I was born in Bangalore.
Okay. So, is that where you got exposed to surfing, or did it
Oh
happen
no, no, no,
later?
not at all. Actually, up until I kind of like dropped out of college at the age of
Mm-hmm.
16, I didn't know anything about surfing,
Mm-hmm.
or I had no interest such in surfing or any of that. But I was always a person who was very kind of like outdoorsy person. I
Mm-hmm.
really loved, spending time in the outdoors, and especially the adventure thing was always kind of like, I was always excited to be part of adventures and to spend more time outdoors. And I kind of like grew up reading a lot about these adventure novels and adventure journals and all these things. So that was always there in me as a kid who growing up. But when I kind of like decided that I had no interest in pursuing formal education,
Mm-hmm.
when I wanted to kind of like experiment and do some other things in life, that's when I kind of like came across surfing. And that was because some of my childhood friends, who were the first generation surfers in India,
Mm-hmm.
were kind of like had started surfing then. So I was kind of like influenced by them and by my teacher, who was the pioneer of surfing in India.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was introduced to surfing and photography. So these were the two things which kind of like happened to me when after quitting college.
Okay.
And obviously, I didn't know that this would be the kind of like a profession or a career or sort of
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
I just enjoyed doing certain things. I enjoyed surfing. I enjoyed photography. But very early, I realized that like photography wise, I'm not gonna be just another travel or wedding or or any of that mainstream thing. I'm gonna stick to the surfing side of things. I'm gonna stick to the adventure and outdoors. That's always gonna be the my niche thing. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like put all my energy and my time and everything, developing that as a skill, all of that. So kind of like as time went by, what I picked up as something as a fun or something casual or something, kind of like slowly started becoming into something, into a whole different thing. So
Mm-hmm.
so that was like the beginning of what you could say as a where I thought, okay, this is something where we are the pioneers of surfing. We are doing some things which nobody has ever done in the country so far, in terms of taking the sport or taking the surfing scene into a whole different level. And we actually pioneered a whole lot of things since then, and we're still doing that, yeah, today.
That is what I was thinking. Like the time when you started back in 2005 and 6, there would have been no community to support the sport.
Oh no, 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 absolutely none. Actually, we were the only guys. We were the first guys in the country. As a community, as a group. So the Mantra was the first surf club in the country back in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
We were just a handful of guys. Who were all young. We were all like teenagers, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, our teacher, he was a visionary. He himself was a legend. He's yeah, surfing for the last 40 plus years. He knew a lot of things about surfing. So he kind of like helped us to kind of give us an idea, to give us a vision, what and alls can be done through surfing.
Mm-hmm.
So that made us, to kind of like develop Mantra as one of the most premier and most well established names in the surfing scenes in the country. We started off with that, and later on we started some couple of small businesses related to surfing equipment, surfboards, getting the best surfboards into the country, importing
Mm-hmm.
them. So that was another business. We started surf tours, India surf tours. So that was kind of like a very high end company which dealt with handling or organizing surf tours to some remote locations like Andamans and Lakshadweep.
Mm-hmm.
And this was mostly for the outside surf community, in the sense for the filmmakers, magazines, professional surfers, and surf companies like Rip Curls and Quicksilvers, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we were curating tours for them. I think we've done a lot of those. Thing in the last 10 years or so, a lot of that. People have heard about surfing. Everyone knows surfing now.
Right.
But in fact, actually, it goes to the next level now. People not only know, but they know someone who's done it amongst their family or friends or any of that. So that's where we are at as of now. And yeah, so we've played a big role in that.
So you have also been part of multiple surfing festivals. So is there a place where you also see a lot of newcomers come together to learn, or like what exactly happens in a festival?
See, when the concept of creating a festival was started from our side, we knew that in a country like India, if I just say, oh, there is going to be a surfing contest, a bunch of guys are going to be surfing, out there in the deep ocean, you got to come
Mm-hmm.
and see.
Hmm.
And again, the most of the time, the surfing happens early in the morning.
Yeah.
And people are not going to really understand, even if they come to the beach, they're not going to understand what's happening with surfing, what is how things work, what's happening, and all of these things. So our idea right from the beginning was that we kind of like create a festival vibe. It's not just, obviously surfing is going to be the main factor. It's going to be the center of the festival, but we're gonna create some other different elements as well, around surfing.
Okay.
And that included like having a music festival in the evening, have a music scene, have a food scene, have a food festival, and introduce few other different things like yoga, introduce other different whatever activities can be done on the
Mm-hmm.
beach. So kind of like we create a whole festival vibe from where a person can come to the beach early in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
for the surfing, for the surf contests, and they can spend the entire day on the beach, you know, being getting involved with some activity or the other. It's kind of like from, it's about almost 10 to 12 hours of festival thing. And it kind of like happens for about three days,
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 days, or even more sometimes. So it's really helped getting a lot of eyeballs towards surfing. It gets a lot of media attention. It gets a lot of different things going for the sport ultimately.
Mm-hmm. So if you had to suggest a couple of festivals, like for people who wish to see surfing live or in action, which festivals would you recommend?
We used to have two major festivals. That is
Mm-hmm.
the Kowloon Point, surf festival,
Mm-hmm.
which has been happening since 2013.
Oh.
So it's almost like we have had seven editions so far now, and probably this year it may not happen. And we've had about two editions of Indian Open of Surfing at Mangalore. So these are the two mega festivals you could say, and Kolong has been there because that doesn't depend on the government; it's completely corporate funded.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a very successful festival. It's really raised the bar for surfing, and it's really caught a lot of attention. So these are the two festivals. But again, going probably next year, we are currently we are restructuring certain things as in relation to surfing events and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think probably from 2021 onwards, we're gonna see a little different approach towards these festivals and everything. Yeah.
Nice. So, if I ask you, like, what would be the most challenging incident that has happened while maybe capturing a photo or like surfing? Like, do you have a story like that?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, there is always a lot of instances. One such story could be, while surfing in Andamans, once all of a sudden there was a huge storm which kind of like came through, and we were in the sea. Obviously, we were in the
Yeah.
ocean
Uh-huh.
surfing, and all of a sudden we go blind in the sense that it was so hard that we couldn't see where we were, what was happening. People around us, the other some of our surfing friends. It was such a such an experience I probably never had before.
Uh-huh.
We've surfed in the rain and everything. That's quite normal. We've surfed in the rain. We've surfed in some rough conditions. But to actually kind of like experience sitting in an ocean, sitting on a surfboard in the middle of a remote island, and where you're stuck in a storm for half an hour, where you don't see anything, where you can't make out where you are, what you're doing. Those are some of the things. And I've also experienced some amazing
Mm-hmm.
moments while capturing photos and everything. Those are some of the memorable incidents you could say. Yeah.
Let's talk about if somebody wants to learn surfing in our country, how would you recommend to go about?
See, nowadays it's quite simple in the sense that anyone can just Google, and you will find quite a number of surf schools and clubs across the country, and
Mm-hmm.
most of them have very quite they have good ratings.
Mm-hmm.
They are very open. They're all on internet nowadays. They all have their social media pages and websites, and the contact. So depending on your location and your
Mm-hmm.
convenience, you can find your nearest surf school. Yeah.
So, is there a certification or something that you should be looking out for while selecting a surfing school?
Yes, what we have is something called as SFI accredited surf schools. Most of the surf schools are accredited with a federation with us.
Mm-hmm.
So what that makes is that it tells you that the school is run by qualified certified instructors who are certified by ISA, the International Surfing Association. So the quality of instructors would be very good, in the sense that they know what they are talking about, the safety, whatever, the way they're going to teach you surfing and everything is going to be
Mm-hmm.
quite good. So that is something what people can look for. If it is an SFI accredited surf school, or they can ask uh, whoever they are talking to. They can ask whether your school is SFI accredited surf school, or whether
Okay.
do you have a ISA qualified instructor. Are your instructors qualified or certified by ISA? So those are some of the simple parameters you can look for, and also
Mm-hmm.
you can ask certain technical questions like what how many surfboards you have, what are the kind of surfboards, is it in good, are you getting some good equipment to
Mm-hmm.
learn surfing, and all some of these things can make a big difference as well. But apart from that, for as a, for you for anyone who's learning to surf, there's no certification.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not gonna go and get a certificate saying that, oh yeah, you learned surfing, or you've done
Mm-hmm.
something. Because surfing is not like diving. A lot of people compare that to diving or something, some of
Mm-hmm.
that. But diving is not a sport. Diving is a recreation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Diving is something you do, you follow certain things, and you get a certificate in the end. Okay, you are a open water diver, you are an advanced diver, you're these things. But surfing is a sport. Surfing takes a lot of years to learn and a lot of things too. So basically, for any participant, you get to understand certain things about surfing. You have your first experience of learning to ride a wave and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no such thing as certificate for a participant. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which you're gonna get as compared to any other sport. Well, certain schools like at Mantra, we evaluate your skills and we kind of like
Mm-hmm.
give you a certain thing. Say that, hey man, this is your skills. We have about 10 different criteria like balance, your pop-ups, certain things, and we say that yeah, your balance is great,
Mm-hmm.
or you could work on this, you could work on that, and those things. It's just an assessment thing, but there is no such thing as a very formal certification or nothing, none of that.
Mm-hmm. So, like, if somebody goes to Mantra, would they get a chance to train with you, or like you just there hanging out?
I don't personally teach. We have again really good instructors, and anyone who comes to Mantra,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be in very good hands. I'm there at Mantra. I'm just doing my own work in terms
Mm-hmm.
of whatever I'm doing with other things. I don't really get involved with the teaching stuff thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm there in the sense to have a conversation, to come in, to just to as a as part of the setup there. I'm there. Yeah.
So, how would the progression be? Like, assuming that somebody goes to a surf school, does course, like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to call it. Is it a course? Is that how you refer to it? Or like a
Yeah,
training
you can call
session?
it a course. Basically, what I mean, what most of the model what we see in India as of now
Uh-huh.
is
Uh-huh.
that most of the surf schools have this model. How they are presenting their surfing courses are what you call as some 3-day course, 5-day
Mm-hmm.
course, a week-long course, and
Mm-hmm.
it can extend from there to 10 days, 15 days, like that.
Okay, okay.
So basically, that's how it's kind of like they're selling the
All right.
surf lessons. And so you can even do just one day. For example, you're in a
Yeah.
place and you can just go and try one day course. You can just
Mm-hmm.
get a hang of surfing for about 2 or 3 hours. But generally, this is the model what everyone's following. And normally in the first 3 days course or 5-day course, you learn the basics of surfing. Absolute, which are quite basic things which you need to know about surfing. And that would be like what is a surfboard, what are the things to do with surfboard, how do you stand up, what are the safety things, how to read a wave, like how, because it's all about again understanding the ocean,
True,
reading
true.
the waves properly.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those practical knowledge goes into these 3-day 5-day courses, or even 7-day course. where you just kind of like learn a lot about the board, surfboard, about the ocean, and your the basic things, the basic techniques of surfing. About standing up on a surfboard, how to balance yourself, how to ride a wave, how to fall. If you're gonna fall off the
Mm-hmm.
board. These are some of the basic things which you learn and you practice again and again. And that's something which you'll have to keep doing for a long time
Of course.
thing. And eventually the progression will come into, I mean, if you are a quick learner, or if you're someone uh, who's gonna do this and get good at these things,
Mm-hmm.
then you can progress on to the next level, where we will be kind of like riding on your own. you
Mm-hmm.
know you'll be riding on your own, you'll be catching your own waves, then catching an unbroken wave, you know, without any help, where you have to paddle yourself, you have to catch that wave and you have to ride that wave and all of that, and better understanding of the ocean, the currents, reading of swell, the size, and probably you can start paddling into some bigger waves. Then you start doing some turns, start going to your left or to your
Mm-hmm.
right, all these things. So those are all the progression, but it all takes time though. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you have like enough confidence that okay, I have taken surf lessons, so you can somebody directly go and like start practicing on their own.
Absolutely they can. But it all again comes down to a certain individual, how confident they are, how
Mm-hmm.
good they are in the ocean. Are they a good swimmer? Do they need any supervision and all these things? So they can do, but it all again goes with an individual. It doesn't apply in general to everyone. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. So I'm gonna ask you a very typical question next. So
Yes.
can somebody in our country make a career out of like you have made a niche out of this entire thing, but is it like a mainstream thing that people can still pursue?
Yeah, I think they can pursue, but in what capacity or in what way? That is a whole. That's again a different question.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone want to be a professional surfer? They want to be an athlete? Yes, it is possible. There's a lot of good scope for that. Whether they want to have surfing as a lifestyle, they will. I mean, whatever they are pursuing, they can pursue.
Mm-hmm.
But can they have surfing as a lifestyle and kind of like be an influencer sort of a thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a possibility. Whether someone wants to coach and be an instructor,
Mm-hmm.
some does anyone wants to kind of like lead that lifestyle, it is still a possibility. And if anyone wants to kind of like set up their own surf school or a surf
Mm-hmm.
club, again, that's a really good possibility, because there's a lot of potential in that as well, because India has a long coastline. We need more surf schools to come up in the country. We need more people to embrace surfing. So that's another area. So surfing as a career in general, yes, it's definitely possible. And there's so many people. There's so many people in the country
Mm-hmm.
who came from different backgrounds, and people who are associated with different things, but they are somehow involved with surfing in general today. So it is
Okay.
definitely a possibility.
Hmm. So apart from surfing, is there any other sports that you like doing?
See, mostly, I mean, I really enjoy surfing thing, but I also, you know, do a lot of other ocean sports, in
Uh-huh.
general. I do cliff diving. I do some. I can windsurf a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I can do stand up paddling. Some other ocean sports for sure, which I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Anything in the ocean is really great. Apart from that, on land, yeah, I mean, I just enjoy general sports. Like, I love cricket. I used to play cricket. I used to play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Any of that. So any sports, any games, I'm a huge fan. And yeah, otherwise, again, anything outdoors is also a great. Hiking, trekking, all of that is always fun, man.
All right. If I ask you that, what are the few things that you have learned from being a surfer over these years? Can you
Yeah.
can you point out like three things maybe?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, it's a really good question that you asked. This is again something like I really enjoy these kind of questions and these conversations, which are
Mm-hmm.
again not the outside thing, but this really goes into deep,
Mm-hmm.
sort of a thing where I could actually say, yeah, I mean, so surfing. I mean, there's a lot of debate which has been going on for the longest time since the beginning. Like today we see surfing as a sport, but honestly speaking, this surfing is more of a lifestyle thing. It is more of
Mm-hmm.
a, you know if you kind of like look at the history of surfing, it wasn't practiced as a sport. It was practiced as something, as a part of life. It was a lifestyle.
Uh-huh.
Especially if you go back to surfing to its roots, it goes to Hawaii, it goes to Polynesian islands where people used to surf, or people they were the first ones to surf in the world, on the planet.
Uh-huh.
And for them, it wasn't a sport, it was a part of their lifestyle. It was some kind of a spiritual, like how we do yoga or how we do meditation, how we do certain things. I think for them, surfing was one of those one such activity, where for them it was their spiritual activity, where it was their meditation in its
Mm-hmm.
purest form, where they came very close with nature, without any much of a, you know without any other element being involved in it. Riding to Learning to ride a wave, or riding a wave, was its in its purest form, was their thing. So, and when you do that, the whole idea, whatever, for us, even for most of us, the thing is that, we, or when we are spending so much time surfing, or when we are spending time in the ocean, we kind of leave we have to leave everything behind us. You cannot take your whatever, your joys or sorrows, or whatever you're going through. You can't take those emotions into the ocean, into surfing. Because while you're there sitting on your surfboard in the middle of ocean trying to catch the next wave, that is all you're focused on. Very, very, few number of times, you may be thinking about something else, anything. Otherwise, you just put your mind into it. Your body, mind, everything has to be in sync to to be surfing, to be in the ocean and
Mm-hmm.
to be riding. So you can't really carry any of your whatever thoughts, or the emotions into surfing. You have to leave everything behind and have to go. So that itself is kind of like a meditation, actually. Because that is what meditation is all about. When you're meditating, you're not thinking about your joys and sorrows or the pains you're going through. You kind of like keep a very still mind. You kind of like empty it out, right?
True.
So that is what you have to do with surfing. So surfing can be a huge meditative, it can be a therapy to a lot of people as well. I think that's the biggest draw what surfing has got, as compared to any other sport. For example, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
cycling, badminton, or whatever, tennis. You can't really say that about other sports. Very, very few sports come close to surfing, in that way. The other thing I could say is the conservation part, so which I'm really passionate about. I mean, there are a lot of conservation programs which are happening in the country, in the sense about forests, wildlife, and all these things, which are really important, which are equally important. But
Mm-hmm.
there are not many people who are involved with ocean conservation.
Mm-hmm.
There is not much emphasis, or much, things are not going so much for the ocean. The importance of oceans, the importance of healthy oceans, in, in the world.
Yeah.
So that is a subject, which is very less talked about, but at the same time, it's in danger. That could be so much of plastic pollution. There's so much of other things which are happening in the ocean, which are really threatening the ecosystem, the eco balance. So that is something, again, we need more people to be aware of these things. More people be involved in conservation of oceans and all that.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and that can only happen when you actually get involved with ocean. The thing is, when you love something, you will protect it. So that's as simple as that.
Agreed.
If you love mountains, and then you're going to do something about to protect, those particular, landscapes, whether it is
Mm-hmm.
mountains or the oceans or the rivers. So we need people to, yeah, to come out and to experience oceans in some way or the other, whether it can be surfing, it can be just your beach running, beach walks, it
Mm-hmm.
can be sailing, it can be anything, any activity. When you do that, then you're going to actually really start appreciating the value of what we
Actually.
have today, our oceans and our things. So that can indirectly you'll start caring, indirectly you'll start conserving and doing a lot more to give back, right? So that is
Yeah.
something, I feel like we need to do that, and it's high time that, we we kind of like put enough emphasis on ocean conservation. The other thing, the third, I could say, like, surfing has the potential to change people's lives. That's something what I've seen from very, very close quarters, basically. So that, I've seen like how it's really empowered so many people around the country. People who came from very challenging socio-economic backgrounds, people who came from nothing. Today surfing has kind of like provided so much to those people. to an individual, to a certain community, to a certain village, all across the country.
Mhm.
Surfing has really changed, you know, so many things around the country. Especially like I have some great stories that way. I remember in 2004 when the tsunami hit the coast of Tamil Nadu. So a lot of
Mhm.
fishing villages. That particular I was talking about, that particular festival, the Kovalong Point. So
Mhm.
that Kovalong Point is a village, Kovalong village. It was completely decimated after tsunami. A lot of fishermen, a lot of that fishing community, they lost a lot of their lives and properties and all these things. But a few years down the line, when surfing was introduced to the sport, was introduced to the village, surfing kind of became an alternative career for them. It really brought such big changes in that village. All of a
Mhm.
sudden that village kind of like became the center of surfing. It became a fishing. From what was just called as a fishing village became like a surfing village. So many people, so many kids, so many teenagers in the village started surfing, and it just changed that from a very fishing village to this amazing surfing village where it started attracting a lot of crowd from the city, internationally, nationally. So many tourists started coming. I remember going to that village 10, 15 years ago, and there was not even one single hotel. It was so backwards. Today, if you go, there are, Airbnb villas. There is a five-star hotel close by. There is so many things have changed in that village. That was all through surfing. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It provided so much of employment opportunities, so
Right.
many homestays, so many people coming there, such a economic growth. The real estate went 10 times more, if you wanted to purchase a beachside property there, and all of those things. And I know the other examples could be like people, the kids in the village, especially coming from that fishing community, or coming from any other background, you know they had a lot of bad habits. They used to, at a very young age, they were into alcohol, they were into
Mhm.
smoking, and other things, even drugs and all
Mhm.
of that. But because of surfing and because of those things, they were off. They spend most of their time spending in the oceans, learning to surf, surfing, rather than being involved with these kind of activities. That's the thing. So that's the impact. That's just one of the stories. For next 2 hours, I can tell you so many stories. With the
Yeah, yeah.
positive impact
Plus.
the surfing has had on people. Across the country, on individual, on a community level, and in so many different ways. How it's impacted, how it has had an impact on so many people. Actually, that's the power of any sport, for that matter.
Yeah,
I'm not just
exactly.
saying surfing. Any sport has a lot of drive, or has that positive thing with it. But I think with surfing, there is a lot more. Again, I think it just, there is so much more as well.
Hmm.
Very few. Again, it's only very few sports has that kind of, can have that kind of impact actually.
A lot of people actually overlook this part. They just look at an adventure sport as a sport or an activity, but they kind of overlook the fact that it has the capability of bringing a lot of changes to one's life.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. It can bring in a lot of changes in one's life, in a community, in a place, in a location. It can change up the whole this one. And this is where I see that the government should recognize these kind of things and actually support these activities. They should support these kind of adventure sports and all these things in a country like
Mm-hmm.
India. So this is something I feel the government hasn't. Nowhere. Whether it's a state or the center, they haven't really put enough thought and work behind promoting the adventure sports, because I think it can be something else in a country like India. It can
True,
really have
true.
a big impact.
Tell me something. How would you call yourself? Like, would you say you're an ocean conservationist?
Only very recently I've started calling myself that I'm
Uh-huh.
kind of like some kind of a conservationist.
Uh-huh.
Again, the recently, some time ago, I was asked to talk to some IT employees, from around the country on a Zoom call. This
Mm-hmm.
was during the lockdown, and this was specifically about conservation. This was this IT firm Cognizant. They reached out to me and they want to talk to
Oh.
me about thing. So I was. This is the first time I was talking to a group of professionals from around the country,
Oh.
on a call, and they wanted to specifically, they wanted me to talk specifically on the conservation and ocean and
Mm-hmm.
why is it so important, all those things. So I was actually a bit nervous. I was actually a bit nervous. I was quite like, oh, what am I gonna say? How these are all learned
Mm-hmm.
professionals, and I'm a
Yeah.
college dropout. what do I know, and all those things. So right in the beginning, right before the conversation, it was a 1 hour session.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the session began, and I very honestly, very frankly, I told them one thing, guys, I have not gone to any university, where I've done some masters or some PhD on conservation. I don't know the science. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
this and that. If you ask me, about ocean conservation, like, if you start asking me in a very scientific way and all those
Mm-hmm.
things, I'm not that person. I'm not gone and read tons and tons of books on marine biology and ocean and all those things. I'm not that person. I don't have that qualification. But what I do have is that I come from a very practical background. I have a lot of practical experience and practical knowledge on the oceans. I have I've kind of grown up, like I've spent, like, now I'm 31 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
I've spent half of my life very close to the oceans, and I've seen quite a lot of ocean. I've been in the ocean. I've spent around the world. I've gone, traveled, seen quite a bit of ocean. So whatever I have is all practical knowledge. And please excuse me, if I'm not a thing. So they were like, "Oh, great! We want this kind of, very honest and very practical experience to be shared, and not just some textbook thing." So you know so it was a great session. They all loved it. They had a lot of questions which I was able to answer, and everything. So what we need again today, what I would call myself, is that we actually need action, not just words.
True,
Like,
true.
I know there are a lot of experts there. There are experts in everything nowadays. People who know this, people who know
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
people are doing this studies, that studies. What we need is action on the ground. We need people. They don't need to know too many things. If that is not necessary. If you're just aware of few simple things, that how important is the ocean, what we need to do, what can we do, what needs to be done, how can we educate someone, how can we have some influence over some other person, that is enough. You don't need to know the science of phytoplanktons. You don't need to know the science of the ocean currents and the tides, and how everything moves around the world, the ocean temperature, whatever, all those things. We don't
Mm-hmm.
need to know that. If you know, then it's great. So I'm learning so many things now in the last few months through that online course. But it is not absolutely necessary. If you are really passionate about doing something about the ocean, that is not necessary, the thing. So yes, I'm an ocean conservationist, but from a very practical point of view, from my own practical experience, and not from any university. I don't have a certificate, or any kind
Mm-hmm.
of master's degree or something on the conservation or any of that. But what I am is very passionate. I'm about the ocean. So that probably, if that qualifies, yes, I'm some kind of a conservationist.
I think it absolutely makes sense because I kind of agree to the thing that you just said. The action is more important
Absolutely,
sometimes.
yeah.
If I ask you, like, how can an average human being help to save the oceans? Like share some examples for our listeners.
See, again, it all starts at a very individual level. It starts
Mm-hmm.
right at home. So many things which we can implement and incorporate in our daily lives. That could be just a reduction of single-use plastics, reduction of educating someone else about
Mm-hmm.
some, if you can educate your friend or some a family member about these things. It's a great way to start. And even someone like, I was doing some research and I found out that people, I'm a vegetarian, but people who love fish, people who love seafood, there is a particular website called knowyourfish.org or something.
Okay.
Know your fish. And like, you may be a seafood lover, which is okay, great, but you should be very much aware of which fish you should be eating at what season, or which months,
Oh.
because that makes a big difference. If you're just, because people are so into seafood, they don't care about the season, the whole
Mm-hmm.
cycling, the whole cycle of how the fishes, because fishes are becoming extinct in our oceans nowadays. Like, people are going far and far to fetch more fish, more seafood for the thing. And honestly, people don't know when to eat what fish. So there is a certain website which helps you to understand what seafood you can have in which particular month, so that you're not putting more stress on already something which is very, 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 very stressed, the fishing. So these are some of the simple things which you can incorporate, and it will make a big difference.
Yeah.
All of that. And yeah, things go from there, from an individual level, it can go up to from the industries, the government policies, and all of that, which is a whole whole lot. But yeah, individually we can do a lot of things.
It's a journey, like how it happened for you also. Like
Yeah.
eventually people realize that there are small things they could do to conserve the ocean, and then eventually they start doing it.
Yeah, I think that is what we are all hoping for, and I know that certain countries in the world are very advanced in this particular area in this field. A lot of European countries, they all have very stringent laws now on the in protecting the oceans. A lot of the countries have realized how important the oceans are. The healthy ocean, how it's such a big factor that it covers the 70% of the planet is covered by oceans, and so little is being done to the
Mhm.
oceans. So a lot of countries have realized that, but and they also have very good policies in place to keep our oceans healthy. Whereas in India, we don't see that happening much. I think there is a lot of good things happening with forests in general. A lot of those things have been taken care, but in general, with ocean, it's not the case. But hopefully, yeah, at some point we'll get there, and hopefully we see some positive things happening
Yes,
on the ground.
yes, hopefully. Hopefully people will get more aware, and I hope surfing also gets a lot more recognized than it is right now.
Yeah, so hopefully, yes, we have. I see at some point or the other, surfing becomes like one of the major coastal activities. Most aspired sport in the country in
Yes.
terms of adventure sports, and that can, yeah, it can be really a wonderful. It can have a wonderful impact on many number of things, from
Hmm.
conservation to economy to social, changes in the society and all those things. It would be wonderful. Tourism and all those things. It's great.
Hmm, indeed. All right, so I'm coming to my last question now. Any upcoming projects you look forward to? I know it's COVID, like most of our plans are like not working, but like, is there anything that you're looking forward to post-COVID scene?
Yes. See, I mean, I had some really great plans for this year. I was gonna go to, I was gonna have a great trip to Andamans, to one of the remote islands on a surf trip. It was cancelled. Then I was gonna go do one project with a pro surfer from South Africa in June. It's cancelled. A lot of great ideas have been put on hold.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm hoping for is that hopefully post COVID, maybe next year, we don't know when, what's going to happen. But if I can somehow get back to some of these
Mm-hmm.
projects, some of these travels, it would be really great. Apart from the travel part, there's some changes, some things which again we are hoping for is to introduce a national circuit, national tour for surfing championships in the
Mm-hmm.
country, which hopefully we want to introduce by 2021. Well, again, we got to see, what's all happening around with us. That would be really good for the surfing scene in the country in general. Whenever it does come out, circuit. Yeah, and then I myself, on a personal level, on a personal project wise, I really want to go and explore more of the coastline. I want to create some really good content with some good brands,
Mm-hmm.
which involves a lot of exploring, a lot of expeditions, some challenging, surf trips to certain places, which I want to see if I can make that happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's some ideas. Let's see how it all comes out. Because
That
that's,
sounds super exciting, man. Like, I hope I get to see all of that.
yeah, yeah. These are some of the short-term plans, but I also have some long-term plans and ideas. But
Uh-huh.
those are all too big, to be dreaming about as of now. But let's see.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds exciting, man. Sounds exciting. So I honestly, I hope I get to meet you sometime personally. I
definitely.
personally
Please
want
come
to.
down to Mantra once this is all over.
Sure, sure. Like,
And there's so much more we could discuss and talk about, and hopefully get you more hooked to surfing.
I'm looking forward to, take surfing as a thing, and
Yes,
hopefully I
there
get to
are
meet
quite a
you then.
few. Like we have a huge base of surfers, like like surfing enthusiasts in Mumbai.
Uh-huh.
So, like it's one of our biggest markets, honestly speaking. Mumbai has a lot of hunger for surfing and for most of the
Hmm.
activities. It's really good.
I think, see, these metropolitan cities are the cities where people are the most frustrated, no, with their jobs and all.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
more frustrated. They have more money. Anyway, they're making more
yeah,
money.
yeah.
They are looking for
More money.
alternatives. So yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's our bread and butter, you could say.
Hmm. True, true, true. All right. So thank you, Ram, for coming on the show.
No worries, man. It was such a
Yeah,
pleasure talking to you. Yeah,
same.
great.
So that was the end of this episode. Thank you for listening to the entire thing. I hope you liked it, and I will see you all next week.